Just getting things set up real quick. And as I'm doing so, I hope you guys are doing well. This is your boy Healer Nico. And I don't know, I just woke up and oh my god. It's like a long, emotional, chaotic, quote unquote air quotes, war of the hearts um came to, I guess, a conclusion, a final chapter, if you will. And it has a lot to do with this. Okay, I'm just using this as a prime example. Sorry about if there's smudges. It's like hair oil or whatever that's all over it, but it has a lot to do with this. And in no way, shape, or form am I going to mention names, but I am going to be honest and straightforward about my own personal feelings about the entire thing in the last 8, 10 years, the last decade. I don't know. I just feel like I have to clear the air, clear my consciousness, and just move forward from everything. Because not only did she block me, her sister blocked me too. So I'm beyond baffled. I'm beyond it. Because I don't want to be faced for whatever defamation charges. And not saying that I am being faced with such legal issues, because I'm not. Um, but there's a fine line between privacy, details of a relationship or lack thereof, and how things actually went versus to how people believe things went, versus ruining people's accreditation, which I'm not here to do, and or ruin someone's reputation. Okay, even though my reputation has been, I don't know, dragged through the mud here and there, based on X, Y, or Z reasons, based on personal feelings, personal afflictions, personal this, personal that. And I don't know, everyone is going through a whirlwind of emotions. We're leaning into the new year and having to get new tattoos and then cover up tattoos because whatever the case might be. Um, I really wish I had something structured or set out in order to, be deliver this the best way that I know how without stepping over blurred lines here. Okay? Number one, I do admit that I have feelings for both of these individuals. Okay? I've written it. I've written it in the black book. Whether or not if said individuals got their hands on this black book, um, is besides the point. The main intentions behind this black book was to share thoughts, ideas, words of wisdom, clarity, and inspiration, amongst other pages. I think I used the black book for personal dreams, if I can remember back, because I can't exactly remember everything I've written in there. But if there was any lines of inspiration within that black book, um, they may or may have not been utilized in the 3D matrix of things. And behind the scenes, it wasn't through personal DMs, whatever, because it was on a public platform. And said discussion was held on a public stage where anyone could read from anywhere. So I don't think, I'm stepping over line at all when I mention this. When certain creation processes were established and transgressed, and there's no way, shape, or form can I prove this, and I'm not here to claim anything, I'm not here to want anything, I'm not here for whatever X, Y, or Z reasons that people assume the reasons why I'm on here is other than what I'm trying to do is clear my consciousness of what happened and how I'm feeling throughout this entire thing. So there's been chapters and journal entries of mine that I used the black book for ideas, whatever the case might be, songs, lyrics that I personally written and was transposed of. Okay. You know, written and delivered. Okay. So I'm not here to claim anything. Again, disclaimer. I'm here to speak upon my own personal feelings about what had happened, and I'm going to move on forever because not only because I'm being forced to move on, but because after the long 8 to 10 years or last decade of not only financially supporting, unconditionally loving and showing up and arriving and being a part of certain experiences, whether it was behind the scenes or whether it was through the creative processes or because I truly fell head over heels for said individuals that and let me stress heavy enough that loving one or the other wasn't planned, it wasn't any type of scheme, it wasn't any type of like to get back at one or the other. Things happen. Things happen, feelings happen. Whenever the heart gets involved, it gets very messy and can get very lost in the sauce. Okay, and I'm not here to take one side or the other, and I'm not here to cause any type of triangulation. Even though in this human experience, us souls living in this human experience, things get messy. And written in said black book, I was open and honest and authentic about how I felt about certain relationships and certain connections, and one or the other, probably, or both, clearly enough, because of the blocking, probably thought it was best for me to go my own way. Despite my own personal afflictions and my personal emotions or thoughts, whatever the case might be about said relationships, one thing led to another, and I really wish I could just like come out and just say what I need to say, but I there's like a energetic and like mental barrier that's happening there, and I'm not here to cause further division. And first and foremost, I never meant to cause any type of division, right? Because I loved said individuals for as long as I known both of them, and even to the one that I first fell in love with, that because I wasn't receiving any type of like physical reciprocation, or there's no type of like real life 3D like matrix dating of anything. It was all fifth dimensional, it was all energetic, it was all emotional. And I confronted said individual in DMs without disclosing any like finer details, right? Because there's only a one-way conversation going on there. Me speaking into the void of her DMs, and I guess just one day, I guess her and her other person in her life that eventually got tired of, I guess from their point of view, my nonsense of how I was portraying said relationship that probably wasn't there on their point of view, but from my point of view of things, it was very real, it was very authentic, and it was very finite. Whether they claim it to be so or not, it is what it is. I see people as all equals. I see people, whether if you're from the presidency all the way down to an everyday common Joe, common Jane, like in my eyes, everyone's equal, okay? And as a collective and from a spiritual mindset, we're all one underneath one umbrella, one roof. And these are certain things that they preached about, created about, was very artistic about. And if this was true, things wouldn't be ended up the way that they are. But I guess push came to shove, and within said black book, what if they were honest about it or not? Wait, what's going on? Sorry about that. Something happened. Well, if they're honest about it or not, that's on them, but what's on me is on me. And I'm not here to blindside, I'm not here to blackmail, I'm not here to cause any type of legal stuff, you know what I mean? So, it's just me coming on here utilizing my platforms in order to open up about my true and raw authentic emotions. So, towards the end of said black book, okay, and I'm just using this as an example and as a catalyst of said connection that used to be a connection there. And I have my personal afflictions and personal bias about things, whether things played out in my head the way that they did or did not, versus to how feelings have been crossed and how the plethora of miscommunications have been delivered or not delivered and huge misunderstandings because other individuals within the same collective of said environment um, had their 2 cents or opinions about it. And for anyone who wasn't directly involved in the relationship, please respect that. Please respect that, okay? And if you know, you know. But at the same time, I have a deep heart, deep feelings, and deep release about my own personal feelings about that relationship. And it wasn't depression at first. It was awestruck. It was an awe-spark. It was everything. And it was very real, okay, within my own personal feelings. But it's just a memory. It's just memories within memories within memories, feelings within feelings within feelings. And I never meant to cause any division. I never meant to cause any hurt. I never meant to cause any harm. And I just want to send out first harm, like heartfelt apology for anyone and whomever was or was not involved. And I never meant to draw any conclusions or conspiracies or things that in my head and my heart and my body existed. Whether or not the other individual or individuals admit to it or not, that's on them. But towards the end of the book, and it was like written out almost like a damn near, if my memory serves right, like a damn near like fantasy world within said book, within this writing, that it was almost like the never ending story, in a sense, of a little boy who's trying to find meaning and placement within his own life, and something about a girl that turned into something about girls, plural, and that turned into something about something that he felt like he was not worthy to have because of past traumas and personal afflictions based upon not just these relationships in this book, but be prior to that, prior to it being written. And towards the end of the book, this little boy had to be honest with himself about how he felt, not just about one girl, but the other as well. And he knew that something like this would happen. He knew that it would have cost his relationship with both of these individuals, or all individuals involved, mainly the one that he was writing about, or two. It was a story of a woman on a beach who collected seashells by the seashore, who was very creative in her ways, who waited by a lighthouse, who was waiting 364 days a year just for him to arrive back home for one day of the year. And it was a story of a boy that grew up into a man after his long, exhausting journey of trying to make his way back home to her. And now The very reflection and the mirror effect of all this that was written, which I don't have proof of other than a symbol, that symbolism. This is not the actual black book, by the way. This is a symbol, a duplicate. People asked me if I made copies, and I said I did not. But the story will only remain inside of my mind, inside of my body, inside of my heart, and inside of my soul, which is also her mind, her body, her soul. We are one of the same. But it's not just about her, and it's not just about me. This very message that I was writing about goes far beyond than her and I. It goes far beyond the connection at hand, or if there was ever a connection. Maybe it was just one sided, maybe it was just me making things up according to other people. But according to me, it was very real, raw, and authentic and finite, and real life emotions. And yes, I am a 32-year-old white man that was born in America from an Irishman, Scandinavian, and French Canadian background who was born on soil that doesn't belong to him, but yet this soil belongs to God and no other. And there's extremists in this that exist in this 3D matrix of things that take things so seriously versus if you wanted true love in this world, if you wanted true unity in this world, we wouldn't be heading down the path that we're heading down. And maybe it's because of the 3D matrix job that I currently hold in my life for working for the government. And it wasn't by choice because I wanted to go against the hierarchy or to go against this or that, but it's because I had to make a fine line choice between providing for children that I was too young to have at the time versus growing in these trauma patterns or trauma bonding patterns from one relationship to another. And I used to be a huge codependent in that matter. And even though I cover the shroud of guilt, of shame, of pride, of ego, and no longer wanting control, no longer wanting to be right, no longer wanting to prove one way or the other. I just wanted to exist among them and growing into a more further depth and understanding about my own emotions and my own feelings and helping her and this other person along the way in our journeys side by side. And people grow apart, people come and go every single day, and I don't know whether or not if it smeared anyone's accreditation or reputation, and that was not my intention. It was not my intention to cause any harm, like I said before, of any nature. But the more that I found myself obsessing over this idea, whether if it was from like plots in movies like Inception or plots in a movie like Titanic or plots in stories like The Matrix, if it was plots and stories like the song and music Landslide, if it was plots and stories like just different signs and symbols that only her and I can understand. And I'm sorry that this relationship wasn't strong enough to manifest in the 3D matrix of things, whether if you wanted it or not. We got things and connections called like kindred, twin flame, etheric, soulmates, whatever term you want to place there, and whatever you want to fill in the blank for. This is a live stream and devotion and memoir to that connection, whatever it meant to you. Maybe it didn't mean anything. I don't know. Which it's hard to believe that it didn't mean anything to you or to all of those involved. And The reasons why I came out towards the end of the chapter for it is written and how it ended is exactly how it's turning out in the end in the 3D matrix of things in real life. Is because I wrote it out to be so. And I had to be open, true, and authentic with myself so then all parties involved could also understand how I felt about the situation. And when I directly messaged one of the individuals about how I felt and out of despite of everything in our connection, and I knew it was a huge risk to take and to confront her about how I felt I was being mishandled or misunderstood or mistreated, and also having serious feelings about being used and mentally and physically, not physically, mentally and spiritually and energetically, emotionally abused, not physically, in regard to non-reciprocal um, replies of that kind of nature, of that kind of sort. So this is going to be the capital THE, the very last time I'm ever going to open up and talk about this, for it's a closed book. It's a closed chapter in all of our lives, apparently. And I'll forever carry them in my mind, in my body, in my soul, like that, how us within the collective have always existed, and how just like the symbolism of the witch on the pike or the witch on the pier, like back in the Salem witch trials days. It's a very symbolism of that relationship burning up in flames and the very real feelings. I don't feel betrayed. I don't feel like the only level of betrayal that I feel is the inauthenticity part of it. Like whether if I was looking for acceptance, closure, or rejection, and some people are avoidant attachers, which can't fathom or even handle respectfully about the directness of said communications that I was looking for, which never really happened directly, anyways, but indirectly otherwise. And whether if you're in the highest seat of life, whether if you're holding certain labels, titles, or pathways in certain life, and this life is your rock and your bed and your baseline, your foundation, I get it. You can't have one without the other, I get it. For this core and finite aspect of you is everything that you built your life around, so therefore that's what you have to protect. I get that. I totally understand that. But then there's another aspect of you that is very personal, that is really real. Not saying the other side of that isn't real, because it's very real. It's kind of like the same aspect of me protecting my assets and protecting my career and protecting my 3D matrix of things as well. If someone stepped into my life, right, and was very open and real and authentic with me about their emotions, me, how I would respond is not to lead them on for years on end and leave things open ended and uncertain. And the reasons why I felt like I had to control an aspect of me, which is also an aspect of you, or caretake, or even the spiritual term is called masculine containment. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means or entails, please go on over to my spiritual coach Teal Swan over on YouTube and look up the video called Masculine Containment, where providing a masculine container for the feminine or the female aspect of us is to caretake these different aspects of me, which are different aspects of you at the same time. Very confusing if you don't know what that means. And what I felt like I was providing for these individuals in the said connection relationship was this container, as they were containing me through the feminine. I was caretaking the masculine side of it as they were caretaking the feminine side of this container within this said relationship. And whether or not there's triangulation occurring or whatever was real and whatever wasn't real, I'll never know from their point of view. I only know what is real for me. And I can only speak from my aspect and my point of view about this. Whether they wanted to open up about this or not, which I feel like over time, one of the individuals was caretaking and protecting this other individual, and I get it. It's very normal, especially if you're blood related or family. It's very natural to protect what you love, and that is very near and dear to your heart. But I am not a monster. I am not the enemy. I am not drawn out to be someone who needs mental help, even though there's different aspects of us that always needs caretaking in that way, and I felt like I was caretaking her in that way, if not just her, but both of them. But I don't feel like I would. There's a longevity of that relationship. There was a lot of finite moments within said relationship that was very fun and very happy and very encouraging. And I don't take away from that whatsoever. I actually am happy to have been a part of that memory or memories or moments in time. But to take something so real and finite and raw, true and authentic from someone's heart and utilize that within your creativity, or whether that was me being used as a muse or that relationship or the mathematical algorithm or formula to whatever writing style that or creativity styles that you're utilizing just so you can get by, which I don't agree with if that was the case, and none of it was true, and it was just a modality for successes, and I really don't think that was the case at all. Even though there's certain parts of me that kind of feel that way because of how things are turning out right now. And I believe and I feel to my core that she and they are always going to be a part of my psyche, and I have to now, because I'm being forced to go my own way. Um, whether there's peak blocking or just blocking in general, that I need to just completely take myself aside and take my autonomy back from whatever relationship you want to call it, whatever that relationship entailed. For me, it was very romantic and very finite, very personal, real, true, and authentic to my bottom of my heart. And if she or they ever feel betrayed for whatever I was claiming in the past, which I feel like if you know, you know, which I wasn't trying to prove anything of the sort. I just wanted to be felt. I just want to be heard. I just want to be seen. And I feel like within that creative process, I was heard, I was felt, and I was seen, but not in the way that I wanted to be caretaken. I wanted something more than the mental. I wanted something more than the spiritual. I wanted something more than the energetic. I wanted something physical, real and finite in the 3D matrix of things. But for whatever the case might be, through the X or Y or Z reasons, emotions or feelings that I can't draw conclusions to because it's my personal point of view on it or opinion on it, that I probably wasn't the perfect spokesperson or the perfect ideal individual, or I might have thought things or said things or done things that might have been taboo to like individuals outside of said relationships. But I don't have any regret. I don't have any guilt of the matter. I just feel more confused than anything, and like confused, bewildered. Like, well, I can't draw a conclusion to something that wasn't responded to. It may have been reciprocated to some depth, but not the way that I thought it was going. You know, and reasons why I have to dismantle certain aspects of my life now that I'm being forced in a different direction, that I will carry these memories and situations with me, forgive but never forget. And it's not bad, but it's not all good either. And it hurts me a lot trying to talk about this, and I'm crying at the bottom of my heart while trying to contain myself as I'm here with you guys. And disclaimer for any of my gaming community that has been following me, thank you to all 45 or 50 of you who have been following me in the last 6 months. 4 or 5 your subscribers. We're reaching 10 subscribers now, so thank you for that. By the way, in my gaming community, shout out to y'all for your all's unconditional love and support in that regard for the gaming process. And that gaming and being here on the Purple app and now on YouTube. Um, Pretty soon I'll be expanding out towards Kick and other streaming platforms, but like TikTok. Um, but I feel like my place is here on the Purple app and on YouTube right now. But I just want to give that shout out to y'all, whoever's tuning in, watching this VOD right now, but or after the fact. Um, I took more good away from this relationship with not just the one but both of them or all parties involved. Um, I'll continue meditating on these kind of things, continue reading and becoming more wiser. And as I persevere through this end of this book and end of this chapter, and the art of living, the art of dying, the art of allowing, the art of existing, it was all real, true, and finite, nonetheless. And I think the number one in my mind, at least from if I may, after her friend got married, for an individual that I proposed and connected friends of friends within said circle, and now that they're bests of friends, or even they call themselves sisters, um, her friend got married, and I feel like, whether this is true or not, I feel like this individual had her ear and had true influence in that matter of speaking about love and true, real, and authentic relationships. And whether it came from this individual or not, I can only speak from an empathic point of view. But I feel like this individual had her ear, and I feel like she leaned greatly into this individual that I helped form a connection with, and I was kind of disowned and disregarded in that way. And if you know, you know. It all started out with yoga. It all started out in Santa Monica, and it's just crazy to know that when you're establishing sense a relationship of relationships, that you're kind of pushed out of the equation there, and I have to accept it for what it is and what it's not. Now I know how a certain individual feels about what transpired in the past, and while safeguarding this aspect of her, and it was kind of thrown back in my face, like, who am I to even step in that space? Like, how dare I hold that space for her? How dare I try to help somebody that I fell head over heels for, that I fell in love with, but I'll never be sorry for trying to caretake her in that way. And I don't blame her for reacting the way that she did, and let alone others who are close to her saw me as too weird, or what do you call it, uncontrollable or uncertain, unpredictable. And if that has anything to do with risk management or caretaking said individuals' lives and the careers attached to those lives, I get that. I understand, I understand wholeheartedly about ORM, Operation Risk Management, or just risk management in general. And for anything that can't be contained or controlled or set in place, even while many moving parts are set in motion, if you've got somebody like me whose personal feelings overshadow whatever y'all are trying to do. I never intended that to be as such or as so, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And whatever y'all were trying to caretake or protect me from, and I wasn't aware of at the moment, because you guys have been exposed to so much more from that end of the spectrum than I ever will. I'm just in the beginning baselines of being in that spotlight, if you will, in that limelight, in my own channels and my own, foundations that I'm trying to create with myself and contingent to in relationship or just relations in general when it comes from the business model mindset of things. I'm very appreciative, and never once in my mind have I ever used anyone in that manner in my life to create a name for myself or set myself apart from y'all. And that's true, that's real, that's authentic, me speaking from my bottom of my heart. I never wanted to weaponize the love, the connection. I never wanted to go against said connection, even though that there's other individuals who were never involved in said relationship or connection. And when I say the word relationship, I don't mean like there's any sort of dating going on or real reality, like real 3D matrix, like personal behind the scenes relationship that was going on, because there wasn't. The only certain moments and period of time is when coincidentally, and I don't believe in coincidences, right? Things were aligned in certain ways, and there are certain meetups that occurred in real life, in contingent towards said individuals' careers, that we found a baseline to a certain extent, and in my mind, in my heart, it went above and beyond that, um, beyond the business orientation of everything versus the personal orientation of things. I was leaning more on the personal relationship aspect. And when I say the word relationship, I don't mean to insinuate that there was any type of physical stuff going on, because there wasn't, um, other than like a couple of meetups, right? And there's just like normal meetups, whether if it was for the career aspect of things, career or following aspect of it, versus the personal meetups, which occurred a couple of times. And like normal everyday happening stuff, and that's really all I wanted at the end of the day, was a real personal relationship with these individuals. And there was drawn boundaries, obviously, that I kind of blurred the lines of in contingent towards the business model and the personal model of things. And those two kind of blurred lines kind of accidentally mended or melted together, obviously getting lost the sauce of emotions and misunderstandings and miscommunications and things like that. One melted eventually one melted into the other. I think this was damage control. Um, and so I'm not trying to take it so personally as if like this was an attack upon me or attack upon my character or them attacking me in one way or the other. I didn't take it that way, even though I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, damn, they blocked me. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, what the hell? Like, I own and caretake like my own personal psychological and mental awareness for my own personal, stance on how I personally am versus to how they personally are on their own regard. And I can only speak for myself on this. Whenever it comes to falling in love, the heart wants what the heart wants. And I don't mean to say that in a weird or taboo kind of way or in a stalkerish way, because I never went out of my way to stalk anybody. I never went out of my way to try to make anyone feel like they had to look over their shoulder or ever of that negative regard. Because in my mind, I was only being true, raw, and authentic with my own feelings and emotions. But apparently, it caused more embarrassment than acceptance out of it. And whether they're embarrassed or trying to do damage control or PR stuff or whatever the case might be, apparently it was mind over matter, and it was career over personal afflictions or personal affairs, and that's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, and people will call me delusional. People will call me delulu. People will call me crazy. People will call me a clout chaser. People will call me every single name in the book in order to deter me. Not them, but other people who are either following them or in support of them, which I will forever be in gratitude for them, by the way. I wouldn't be where I am today without them, without their help, without their love, without their support. And not just because there's a financial investment or emotional investment or business strategy, whatever the case might be. For me, it wasn't a business strategy at all. I wasn't trying to get the best of anyone. I wasn't trying to make myself out to be bigger than what I really am, or it's just whenever people have inspirations or aspirations about said connections or about said messages that are being, delivered through X, Y, or Z methods, whatever creative processes that have occurred or are occurring, I don't hold it against anyone. All I can do is just accept what is and what is happening or what is going on. Whether it was for personal expansion or business models or salvation, like salvaging whatever they have left or whatever I have left. I get it. But I'm not here to defamate anyone's character. I'm not here to cause any legal issues, because that's my utter fear is people like having that misunderstanding about who I actually am as an individual versus to how people are making me out to be. And I'm speaking to those individuals right now, not the parties involved, but to those individuals who were never involved in said relationship. Imagine being in my shoes. Imagine being in my spot, and I could care less whether or not. Well, I'll never be in that sort of position because I'll never put myself in that said position. Well, if it involves the heart, if it involves real emotions, and if it involves people's characters or friends of friends, acquaintances of acquaintances, things can get easily lost in the sauce. Things can get easily, the messages could easily be mixed up and easily misunderstood. And what I was trying to do was, you know, develop a personal relationship with said individual. And then one thing led to another because of the deflection or the mirroring wasn't being catered in a certain type of way, or communications weren't being held, and it was all one sided for the matters of direct messaging, or if those direct messages were reciprocated, not through DMs, but through creative processes, right? That I understand and I'm completely aware of, and I've been through so many counselors, through so many spiritual coaches and psychologists, psychiatrists, and through the plethora of medications, whether on or off, that there's there's a chemical imbalance in my family, and I understand that. Where I also understand, like, my aunt, one of my aunts have a huge chemical imbalance, just like I do, where it exists on my mother's side of the family, that we can we can become infatuated or obsessed or be drawn to celebrity figures, okay, or drawn to individuals at a quote unquote hierarchy than us. And I recognize the patterns within my aunt and the patterns within myself, because she had a huge liking and following for her individual in her life that whether it was real or not, and I can't judge my aunt for it, right? And I can't speak for that matters, but I can be true and authentic and honest about how my mom brought up to my attention that her sister also went through the same thing. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm thinking to myself, well, there's a certain level of, acceptance that I have to be aware of. There's a fine line between being in love, being infatuated, or being obsessed, right? And to me, I felt like I was very much so in love and very much so like head over heels for said individual, which grew into the individuals. And as much as that sucks to envelop on or even like speak out about, and towards what I wrote her was intended for her towards the end of the Black Book was a judgment call. I didn't have to open up about how I personally felt about one or the other, but I did. I chose authenticity over the risk of losing said relationships, and unfortunately, I lost out on the relationships, and because I chose truth over gaslighting myself or gaslighting individuals involved, because there's gaslighting on both ends, like not just from her or them. It's just sorry. Give me a second. I'm working with my spiritual coach right now about ancestral trauma and anything that has to do with family and anything that has to do with the creative processes and how to caretake these different aspects of us. And sometimes we make human error, human judgment mistakes, and we say things at certain period of times that we necessarily don't mean because we're hurt or we're in pain or we're suffering or we're dealing with personal stuff that has nothing to do with the other. And all I wanted to do for her was to caretake her, was to hold her through the pain because I was there when her and her previous ex was going through what they were going through, and it was kind of like public information. And when he left or when he was blocked or when he was booted off to the side because of his personal issues, I was there. I felt like I was called upon to caretake this aspect of her even though she didn't ask me to be in that space. You know what I mean? Like there's imagery of a woman in a warehouse surrounded by darkness and surrounded by light all at once. And like an image of a woman who is so alone, so cold, so hungry for emotion, so hungry for connection. But if that emotion wasn't caretaken in such a specific way, it would have died. That seed would have died. Whether it was a seed of inspiration or a seed of love or a seed of beauty or a seed of who she saw herself out to be versus to who she is now, into this massive, massive oak tree that she is today, and just a symbol of that growth process from where we all were then to where we are now. We want to be who we are as a collective. If we individuals individually didn't go through the modalities that we didn't go through or did go through those moments and periods in time. So the reason why I am the way that I am is because I personally, individually yearn for such a love and such a romance and such a connection. I don't know if it was me that was the straw that broke the camel's back, or that was me beating on a dead horse here in the middle of nowhere. And the very red shroud that covers you, and that very black shroud that covers me, um, just have to go our own way, and that sucks to say because y'all were such a huge part of my life, and I felt like for a very long time I didn't have a say or a voice in whatever that was, whatever that relationship entailed. And I felt hurt. I felt deeply hurt because even though y'all never asked for me to enter into your life, and I accept accountability and responsibility on my own part and my own feelings and my own emotions, and I care to take for myself and being okay with not being okay in those emotions, or even working through said emotions on my own time in my own regard, was kind of like speaking to a wall most of the time, only for certain bricks to be pulled out of that wall and peeped upon about, like, oh, how is he acting, or how is he doing, like, what was it, a game? What was I being led on? Was I being gaslighted because said individuals got something from me? Or was it real? Was it true? And the last video that I can recall that the younger sister was covered in cheetah print, I remember that very video where she spoke a little bit upon relationships and how certain relationships weren't meant to continue while others are, while we got to eventually learn how to let go of these different aspects of us in order for all of us to continue living and growing. And it's like, why does it have to be that way? Why couldn't I just be another aspect of you that was accepted? Why couldn't I just be another individual that was loved and catered to, like I see among your other friends? And in no comparison one way or the other, like, there's nothing wrong with me. There was nothing wrong with me to begin with. There was nothing wrong with y'all either. Like, it was very human. It was a very human experience and real situations and real emotions that we're all feeling. And it's just like, I had this image drawn in my head of, like, oh, maybe if I just continue being real, true, and authentic with them and others around us, that maybe one day I can be a part of their inner circle. And for a moment period in time that I felt like I was in the finer line of that inner circle, one leg in and one leg out, and it was nothing to boast about, and it was nothing to be like, hey guys, look at me, like I'm finally in the inner circle. No, that's not how it was. And certain individuals drew that out to be like that. And that's not how it was for me. I just wanted a group of individuals and a group of friends and a group of people who could accept me for me. And maybe it was too raw, and maybe I was too, like, open and too honest to the wrong individuals about said relationship. And there's a snake in the grass there, and I hope y'all know that snake wasn't me. And I think this snake lives in your yard, or if not, down the street from you. And I can't prove it one way or the other. I can only make you guys aware that it wasn't me who was trying to separate or divide or conquer. While I spent some time with the snake in the meadow and trying in New Orleans, I believe, and also once upon a time sharing a room with this snake, and nothing happened within said room. Not only because she's a lesbian, but at the same time, my intentions were trying to get a closer connection with this individual in your life, so then I can further understand where y'all were coming from and where she was coming from. And it was nothing taboo, it was nothing inappropriate. All that happened was a straight guy sharing a bed with a lesbian once upon a time. And I think it was either before or after New Year's night that one year. And yeah, I bought this individual a skateboard, and I'm just sharing a finite example so there's further clarification. rather than just one person's side of the story, right? And here's my side of the story. And the reasons why I shared a room with her was because I didn't have anywhere else to go. I didn't have anywhere else to stay. So she offered me a night to stay in order to recuperate, in order to, so I wouldn't have to drive home tired, right? So that's just one example of me trying to caretake an aspect of me that thought that this aspect of me was my friend, was on my side, and which I truly believe that this individual only wanted to draw me in to get information from me, so this individual can be closer to you, which this lesbian and I shared a mutual interest, okay? And I don't know her side, this lesbian side of the story, right? So there's a lot of hate coming from that individual, even though it was like the snake in the grass energy that only wanted to draw me in to defamate me, to make me out to be a certain individual that was a player or just wanted something, right? Which that wasn't the case at all. And drew this lesbian drew a picture of me, and only I can only speak on my point of view, and this has nothing to do with the two other individuals that I was originally talking about. It has nothing to do with them, right? But this person who had the same person of interest in mind that I had the same personal interest in mind, who we both were in love with, this individual felt like she had to draw me in to gain information from me. And this individual that I'm talking about is not a public figure, by the way. This individual that I'm talking about is a private, citizen, just like how I'm a private citizen. But this lesbian felt like it was necessary to defamate my character, to ruin my accreditation with these individuals, to draw a bad picture about me, and make up stories about me, and ruin my character, so then I can be away from her love interest. And as scary as that real truth is, why would I speak out of character? Why would I make up lies about that? Why would I make up a story like that? I have no rhyme or reason to do so. I'm just trying to fill in said individual or individuals who didn't know that side of the story. So before aspects of me are being drawn to certain conclusions, just let that be known that nothing happened in that room. All we did was share a bed because friends share beds with friends. And that happens all the time, no matter where you are. Adults share beds all the time without nothing happening, right? So, whatever lies were made up about me, things never happened. The way that this individual said that things may or may not happen, which it didn't happen. If anything, her huskies were shitting all over the room. And despite the fact that they probably got into chocolate and was crapping all over the room, guess who had to clean up this messy of a chaos of a room? That this individual asked me to cash app her like a couple $100 because she was short on money. So I don't know what this individual was trying to make me out to be, as if like we're making some transaction of some kind, which that's not what the case was about. This individual, this lesbian, was asking me for financial help because I'm an individual who's very giving, and I'm an individual who cares about people, and I'm an individual who helps people. And I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but now looking back at that situation about me sharing that room with this lesbian, I can understand how it looked like from the outside looking in, and it looked very bad on my part. And I will never make that mistake ever again about sharing a room with a female type, which I had no interest in whatsoever. but sharing a bed with a friend was at the forefront of my mind about her offering to share a room because I was tired in my own hotel room and like my original hotel room for that New Year's night was ended. Like my reservation for my own room ended. Like I could have just like up and left after New Year's night was over with, right? I could have. But then I was so head over heels for this love interest that I felt like connecting myself with this person, this lesbian, that I knew was a lesbian because I had no liking towards this lesbian whatsoever. I wasn't attracted. It wasn't anything sexual nature, nothing, nothing like that. And if she says otherwise because of these certain quote unquote Cash App transactions, was her trying to balance out her account, her own personal account, because she didn't have access to her money. Whether if it was being moved from one account to another, she said to me in that room that she didn't have access to those funds, apparently, that she didn't have access to. So she had to wait a certain amount of time for her bank to clear certain pending transactions which she didn't have available funds for. So I felt bad and I wanted to help her out so then she had access to her own money. And then she said she'll send me the same exact funds back to me after, she had those transactions got cleared. That's what happened. So I didn't think of it in the aspect of a way on how it could have looked on my part, whether if it was this lesbian's intentions to draw a bad rapport upon me or draw a bad image about me among the collective, which I think successfully worked on her part. But it's too late. It's too late. So whether it was just that instance or other instances that drew a bad reputation or bad name for me, that I shouldn't have associated myself with said individuals within the same collective or same group of things. And I learned my lesson on that part, and I learned a very valuable lesson about that too. And I'm never an individual. I'm not a predator. I'm not a monster. I'm not whatever this individual says that I am out to be. Okay? I'm a very down to earth person. I'm a very good hearted individual. I'm a Marine veteran, honorable discharge at that. And sure, I have combat PTSD and huge levels of depression and huge levels of anxiety, things that I've been personally working through over time. There's a huge difference between Nico back in 2014, 2015, 2018, 2020 to 2022, 2023, 2024, and we're in 2026 now. Like, humans do things based upon trust, and I gave my trust to the wrong individual. And whether the basis of these lies about me, um, for being some type of weirdo or some type of predator is not true. Um, Someone who is just out there to get people is not true. Um, these false allegations about me that have been made up over time are not true. Whatever else was said about me is not true because all my intentions were within said individuals, these two ladies that I still have huge unconditional love for, and I fell in love with one of them, and then eventually down the road that I didn't fall in love with the other individual, but I had deep aspirations and deep love for this other individual, right? That is blood related to the individual that I fell in love with from the get-go. But to conclude what I was saying, towards the end of the Black Book that I was writing for her, and so then she can have words of inspiration from me because my love for her is very much still true. But the modalities, whether she used me as a muse or not, I can only draw a conclusion from my own point of view that I felt like it was too coincidental for the things that I've written within said Black Book and was delivered upon. and how that transgressed and how that transpired. Um, I'm not here to prove it one way or the other, but it did happen, and reasons why the formula in the creative process has dramatically changed from one to another. Formulas within creativity always change all the time. Doesn't matter who you're working for or working with, that everything is from a moment of inspiration. Everything comes from a real space, and some other individuals will just make things up as they go along just for the sanity of the creative process or content. And everything I've ever touched up upon and thought about and wrote about was very real from my personal real life experiences, and even not just in this life but in previous lives as well, through the karmic cycles and karmic patterns are also real. And this woman at the seashore collecting seashells, even before I knew that this individual that I fell head over heels for and in love with was very coincidental, but again, I don't believe in coincidences, right? And even as a clairvoyant, a clairsentient, and as an empath, that I felt this huge drive and huge finite connection with her is because I resonated with her energy so deeply, like it felt like soulmate energy, right? It felt like twin flame energy. It felt like sometimes it felt too good to be true, and it was just huge roller coasters of huge ups and huge downs and up and arounds. It's just now that now that she's gone and out of my life, it only exists now in my mind, and it's like a huge iceberg hit the side of my ship, or our ship rather, and can't prove it one way or the other. So it's like I'm speaking about something that nobody, or probably a lot of people, won't believe me when I say any of this. Will just write it off as a mental illness or whatever the case might be. But now that not just one blocked me, but both blocked me, so it is what it is. And it's going to take me a while to get her out of my psyche. It's going to take a while for me to get past this, but I'm going to work through whatever I got to work through, whether if it's going through my daily stoic or my tarot cards or my breath work, my meditations, and as long as I believe it in my heart, it was true. No matter how other people may think or feel or whatever the case might be about that situation and moment period in time, it was real. It was real, and I can bring up a whole closet of things that transpired, but I'm not that kind of person to call people out. During certain swap meets or transgressions, one way or the other, and the love could have been true at one moment period in time. I could have been a potential, but I think I got too caught up in my pride and my ego to prove it otherwise. And there's certain things that I should have kept my mouth shut about that I opened up to the wrong people about, and it got used against me. It got used against us, and it's a life experience. And I wanted to draw and break down the barrier or societal belief that celebrities and fans can have a relationship, which certain groups of society believes is taboo, while other groups of society believes that love is love, and you can love more than one person, you can be in love with more than one person, and it's just that decision making and that very finite choice of deciding whether or not if you still want to be in that person's life. And ultimately these individuals chose not to continue said relationship, and I see and feel worlds crumbling as I'm speaking. I recognize and completely understand in real life 3D matrix of things that worlds are crumbling and people are dying in real time and people are going hungry, and whether or not if her personal afflictions because I didn't actively engage, maybe for a short period in time that I was actively donating towards these certain nonprofit organizations, and my federal bank got involved and waived it as like a scam or spam, and I actually lost access to my own credit for like a year because they this nonprofit organization that I was donating money to and financial support to, the federal government waived it as like a scam or whatever the case might be, or the opposing factor because of the current war that is going on, or the current political stances that are being held upon between the government and whatever's on the other side of that train track or other side of that fence. The very movements and the very efforts that are being held upon between the peacemakers and, ISIS, Hamas, whatever the case might be, and the very like background efforts. And I'm not drawing false allegations, or I'm just speaking in general, right? And there's no proof of anything that I'm saying right now, but at the same time, the proof is in the pudding that yes, real life circumstances are going on. Bombs are being dropped. People are dying. I see it. I recognize it. And it's not like I'm not partaking in this person's personal interest because it's her people that's being um, affected on a deep, real, and authentic level, like a serious level. And whether or not if her personal afflictions about me donating or not, or continuing to support her people, I also recognize to be a part of my people, because if we're united underneath peace, love, unity, respect, that we're all one. And once upon a time that I know that you spoke upon it or sang about it, that we're all one, that I don't know that aspect of that could have been like a conflicting issue between her and I, whether or not if I was like supporting her or her nonprofit, or the case might be, or her personal afflictions, one way or the other. I can only speak about my own point of view and my own opinions about that aspect of that connection. With that could have been a contributing factor on why I got blocked, is because I'm not sending money in that aspect, but that could just be an assumption, right? Um, that could have been a contributing factor. Um, but I think the main factor was because my love for her was so real, true, and authentic and raw that it started making people feel uncomfortable, because apparently to some individuals they wanted to shut me out or shut me up about how I felt about her, about them. And towards the end of that book, I came out and I was honest about how I felt about both of them. And I knew that it would risk our relationship, and it ultimately did. That relationship is now severed. That relationship is now ended because why did I feel like it was necessary to open up about how my heart felt about not just one of them, but both of them? And I knew it was a huge risk of mine to take, and ultimately they probably spoke about it and argued about it for some time, and I never once meant to cause any division or decisiveness or argument of any level, or disdain or hurt or suffering or pain amongst each other. I was just trying to clear the air. I was trying to cause some closure. I was trying to cause some acceptance within inside of me, and there's collateral damage in that by being open and honest about how I felt about not just one of them but both of them. And it just it sucks. I chose authenticity over clouded judgment. I chose authenticity over rejection. Me rejecting myself about how I felt about whatever was going on or wasn't going on. Apparently, to in other people's eyes, never happened. It was just all a facade, and it was just all a fantasy, and it was all just made up in my head, according to other people. But I know what was real, and it all boiled down to feelings and emotions. And Now that I've been blocked, I can ultimately and safely say that I've probably been blacklisted to attend any of their future shows. And not officially speaking, but personally, I feel like I can't ever show my face in that crowd anymore, despite them blocking me. Um, it's only a matter of time if that company ever actually decides to block me. But I think it's just safer than sorry to say like, hey, I'm just gonna go off my own direction and do me. And like I can still love them unconditionally. I can still listen to the creative process. I can still listen to the creativity that comes out of everything. I can still appreciate them from afar and not be so immersed in that situation. I'm coming to a terms of acceptance every single day that I find myself, whether if I'm right or wrong. It has never been about me being right or wrong, right? It's never been about me wanting to be right all the time about that connection or connections. It just sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. And of course, the limelight is not for everybody, but it's never been about the limelight. It's never been about the clout. Once again, it's never been about what people make it out to be. It was about love. Period. The end. You know, it's something I know till the end of time, till the end of eternity, and if not just in this life, in the next life, and that's all I gotta say about that. But today is thank you first of all to everyone who's been tuning in and listening to my ranting session. I just felt like I need to get that off my chest. Today is January 6th, and I'm a couple days away from my business trip, so you guys will not be seeing me for the rest of January because I'll be away on a business trip. Um, as a peacemaker, that I need to be in a certain location in order to support the effort. So January 6th, which is today, Daily Stoicism writes as such, titled Where, Who, What, and Why. Marcus Aurelius quotes, a person who doesn't know the universe doesn't know where they are. A person who doesn't know their purpose in life doesn't know who they are or what the universe is. A person who doesn't know any one of the things doesn't know why they are here. So, what to make of people who seek or avoid the praise of those who have no knowledge of where or who they are? End quote. The Blibbit suggests the late comedian Mitch Hedberg had a funny story he told his act. Sitting down for an on-air interview, a radio DJ asked him, quote, so who are you? End quote. In what moment he had to think, in asterisks, is this guy really deep or did I drive to the wrong station? How often are we asked a simple question like, who are you? Or what do you do? Or where are you from? Considering it is a superficial question, if we even consider it at all, we don't bother with more than a superficial answer, but gun to their head. Most people couldn't give much in the way of a substantive answer, could you? Have you ever taken the time to get to find clarity about who you are and what you stand for? Or are you too busy chasing unimportant things, mimicking the wrong influences, and following disappointing or unfulfilling or non existent paths? That's funny. It's funny but not funny. It's the divine comedy that speaks. And that was from the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday for January 6th. And I always ask myself the five W's and how how we affiliate ourselves with certain aspects of ourselves and how other aspects don't want anything to do with us. And a future book that I'll be reading into is called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, following forwarded by Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic. Meditations is what it's called. And I haven't read it yet, but it's something I'm looking to dive into, set apart to being a Stoic and philosopher myself and an alchemist nonetheless, that I'm here to help empower individuals as a healer, as a light worker, and to spread the message of the truth of life, which is love, unites all. And love is the only thing that can overcome evil, all the evils in the world. As much as the devil or antichrist or whatever you want to call it doesn't want that to be so, and only draw us further into sin, right? But that's besides the point from a spiritual perspective, not religious aspect. But back to what Ryan Holiday was writing about and Marcus Aurelius's quote about the five W's. Asking yourself, do we truly know who we are at the end of the day, and who we versus to who we want to be and who we need to be, and who we associate and affiliate ourselves with, and who we don't affiliate ourselves with. That actually getting to know the finite of who we are as a collective, and that I truly believe this, the core of who I am, that of who we are, because I got to change the I to a we, right? It's not just me, right? And what I can get out of it, but what we can get out of it. And the best thing I can do for you guys right now is to bring further awareness into the truth of things, which is love. Jesus was a philosopher and a stoic of love and a teacher of love, and always preached love about love and how love was the ultimate way to bring people further together. And while religious church in context of the Holy Word would suggest otherwise, that love wasn't the ultimate truth, but there are influences and proof within certain different contexts, not just the Holy Bible, but the Quran and other writings among many philosophers and many Stoics and many transgressors who are in sight of the truth and the message of life. And what will ultimately bring us further together is also ultimately the same thing that will pull us further apart, is the misunderstanding and misguidance and misunderstandings and misjudgments about, and personal bias about who we think other people are versus to who we actually are. And that's funny because, and I'll end it here, but I've always been someone to go off on a ranting spree. But I might come live later. I might come live later on to play a game with you guys. I might even consider playing some Phasmophobia, which is a ghost hunter game, but that's besides the point. I'm going off a tangent because I want to end my ranting spree here and end by saying that to whomever finds this video, I hope you can learn to accept and understand that I never meant any malfeasance or defamation of any level. I never meant to cause any harm or suffering upon you guys, and I've always loved you guys unconditionally and individually to their own behalfs, um, which means that I loved each and every one of you individually in its own way. While I was in love and head over heels with one aspect of us, while I was very accepting and welcoming, like a sister energy there. And even though I had an aspect of love for her as well, that I knew there was just like a fine line there. Not only because she has a boyfriend or a fiance, but because I ultimately loved this other individual that I was head over heels for. So I was spelling that out towards the end of the Black Book because I made a judgment call to risk the relationship and risk the connection for truth and authenticity. So I made that judgment call, and ultimately I was right that it caused a huge fragment in the connection, and A part of me wishes that I wish I kept that information to myself, but it is what it is, and it's not what it's not. So just have to keep on keeping on, and not to beat myself up even further about it. I'm working on dismantling some pages that in support of, and it's going to take some time. It's not easy as creating something than it is to destroy something. So that front has been paused, and is over time going to be. I'm going to have to ban several aspects of that connection from that creative space in order to end it. So if you guys are ever finding yourself being banned from a certain page, is because I'm working on dismantling that page. Okay? If you know, you know. Not because I don't support the individuals anymore. It's because instead of me just leaving that page and leaving it behind, I feel like that because it was a space that I personally created in order to support said individuals, that I feel like it's only necessary to get rid of the page entirely and give the power back to the masses. Not not because I was trying to take the power away at all. It's because I was trying to support and show my way of unconditional love towards said individuals. So I'm making that determination. So it's going to take some work in order to get rid of that page, but over time, it is what it is. Um, Not because I'm doing it on a legal stance. I'm doing it because on a personal. I feel like I'm personally being called out by myself in order to detach myself, and especially if it has anything to do with legal stuff. You know what I mean? So, not saying that there's anything legally going on, because that's what I'm trying to avoid altogether. I'm just taking myself out of it. This is the last time I'm ever going to talk about it, anything in related to sort of the sort, unless it gets brought up back up to my attention, right? Or if the individuals ever feel called out to say their own part or their own behalf, which probably will never happen. And and why I had to get wrapped up in them in the first place is because I fell in love. It's because I fell in love, and I was found in a very, very broken space when I was going through two divorces at the time, through the last, several years. And two broken souls, two broken individuals found each other in a sacred space, and for me it was love. And I can't really speak for her, but it is what it is. And I caretaken that. I caretook it. I took her underneath my emotional, energetic wing, and for a period in time, I felt like she appreciated it as much as I hope she appreciated me, nonetheless. But yeah, I think that's a good way to end that. Put a little nick at the end of that, black book. So might even consider having a burning ritual with a 55-gallon metal drum. I'm actually considering it, but there's a part of me that will keep little knickknacks here in order to keep those memories alive, which I don't want those memories to be completely lost in the sauce, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those modalities that I have to work through in order to disconnect myself entirely. Not because I no longer have love for said individuals, but apparently they made their boundary clear. So I'm hoping that one day that things could be established and talked through, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I'll never block the individuals in return. I'm just going to leave it alone, unfollow, and just leave it alone, right? So I love you guys. This has been a ranting session in authenticity stream. That's pretty much all the energy that I have to spare. I'm very tired now. Probably go out for a walk with my fur baby, and maybe I just pull a love tarot. Oh, perfect. This one is called Friendship. And friendship, Blibbit says, nurture the bonds of friendship within your relationship, and your love life will dramatically improve. So, friendship. Things happen one way or the other, even though people go in their own directions. There's if it wasn't love, then at least there was some type of friendship there, you know. And I think that's the best mature way that I can put that, because I'll never hold any type of hate or despair or evil against them, because they never did anything wrong, right? So I don't think anyone did anything wrong. I think it was just one of those situations where feelings and energies and matters got lost in sauce and crisscrossed. So it is what it is. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the beginning of February. If not, I'll see you guys later on for a gaming stream for some Phasmophobia or um, whatever I decide to play. Keep following your North Star. Keep following your compass. Keep following your truth. Keep following your emotions, because your emotions never lie. And I hope you guys have a blessed one. Namaste. The light in me honors the light in you. And salam alaikum. You guys take care. Bye.